Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the DuckBoats podcast. We got a lot to talk about today, but first, I'm going to introduce ourselves. My name is Logan Miller. To my left is Brett Newman, and to my right is Matthew Clayman. We got a lot of Patriots news. A lot has happened in the past 24 hours. Matt, do you want to give us a little breakdown of what we're going to be talking about today?
Of course, Logan. Again, I'm glad to be here. It's first episode, obviously, so we're glad to get this started. Been a long time in the making, I'd say. But
Yeah.
so obviously, game thoughts off of yesterday. Patriots lose. Win. They won. They won the game, 23-16. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and then we're gonna go on to talk about thoughts on the overall season. What happened, why did it happen, all that good stuff. The firing of Jerod and Mayo that broke late last night. And supposedly Elliott Wolf is staying. We'll see how that turns out in the next few weeks, where the stretch goes, and then who will be the next head coach, and then coordinators and all that stuff. But that's where we're going with that. And then draft strategy, off-season plan, and just how does this Patriots team move forward coming off this, I would say, disaster of a season. So there we go. So game thoughts off of yesterday. So Brett, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, I'll get us started here. So obviously, the only one good thing that came out of yesterday's awful day in Patriots news was Joe Milton looks great and Keyshawn Boot looked great. Keyshawn Boot, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 114 yards, a touchdown. He's a young receiver. That's what you like to see, especially going at the end of the season when you don't make the playoffs, because then you get to see him develop, especially with Drake May now. So we'll see how he does next season. Javon Baker got his first reception, so that was cool.
Yeah.
And
First one, number one.
First one,
last game. Yep.
Like you said, Matt, we won the game, but we lost in the grand scheme. Obviously, the number one pick is now gone, and Jerod Mayo is now gone, which is another good thing that happened yesterday. But you can't really take much out of what happened, honestly. It was, at least they won. At least I guess it's cool to say you beat the Bills, but really, did you win in the grand scheme of things? Is what I'm kind of going with there.
I'll take over from there. Pretty much yesterday, the Bills wanted the Patriots to win that game. I realized that in the second half when they punted at the 40-yard line. If you know what I'm talking about, when they punted in their territory, I was like, they're not kicking it? But then I literally realized they want the Patriots to win this game. They don't care. They're already the 2 seed. They did not care of the outcome of that game. They brought in Mike White.
I was just going to say that.
Quarterback. Yep. The Bills wanted us to win. They wanted us to give up that first overall pick. They just wanted to ruin our draft pick, and because they knew how important that number 1 overall draft pick would have been. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing.
I can't even blame them. I can't blame them. Honestly, if our division rival was about to get the number 1 pick and I was going in there, locked in my seed, I think I'd have no problem taking the number 1 pick away, and I know they're happy, even though they lost that game. But it is funny when you think about it. They knew exactly what they were doing, but
there's really not that much to. There's if we were still in the middle of the season, we'd probably still be talking about this game for a little while longer. But
I would say more important than the actual game was more of the scene at Gillette Stadium. Like the last season of the game, right. The parking lot. They show this picture of the parking lot an hour and a half before. It's empty, no energy whatsoever. Place is half full of Bills fans, half empty. It's really just a sad scene when you think about how the Patriots' glory days and all that. But I think it just more speaks to where we're at. The Patriots are kneeling at the end of the game. They're hearing boos when they're about to win the game.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks more to where they are as an organization right now.
To me, it kind of looked like every fan in that stadium was cheering for the Bills in one way or another. How I was cheering for the Bills yesterday.
Yeah.
In some way, which I never thought I would say by any means. I can't stand the Buffalo Bills, but yesterday I was a Bills fan.
When James Cook ran in for the touchdown,
I jumped.
I was
hyped.
I was hyped.
I know the Patriots recovered a fumble at some point during the game yesterday, and the crowd started booing.
Yeah.
That was
They
awesome.
were really booing when anything good happens. Like they were cheering for the first Joe Milton touchdown, but then pretty much after that, it was booze.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It was all booze from there. But
Wasn't good.
I think I think we're pretty much already ready to just move on to talking about the season. Before we do, Robert Kraft is having an interview with the media at 1 p.m. If there's anything noteworthy that is talked about, like I or one of you will mention it probably. But now to talk about the season. A long, miserable season.
Yeah.
Would any of you want to go first with that one, or I can go first if
You can go ahead if you want.
you want me to go ahead. So
Sure,
basically,
why not?
I looked back at one of my record predictions. I predicted the Patriots to go 3-14. So
You're close.
I was close. I knew with the prospect that Drake May was, he probably would not start the season. I honestly didn't think he was even going to be starting week 6 when he first started. I didn't even think it was going to be that early. I thought it was going to be towards mid to end of the season. But Jacoby Brissett was also horrible. So
Yes.
it was also just that. So I pretty much came into this season, I knew it was going to be bad. But I also thought it was going to be more kind of like last year, where we were at least competitive in those games, and we just weren't. Like there were a few games, like the Buffalo game a few weeks ago, we were competitive in that game. But then the Chargers game the week after that, where we got blown out 40-7, it was just the inconsistencies. The defense took a fall. We were, even though the roster wasn't that good, the final year of Bill Belichick, our defense was still at the top of the league in most like stats. The offense still sucked, but that's pretty much what it's been for the past few years ever since Brady left. I mean, what else? Jerod Mayo at the podium. It was post-game press conference. He would say something, and then day after on that radio show the following morning, he'd walk it back. It was just he wasn't good at the podium. Alex Van Pelt as offensive coordinator, I believe he did a great job developing the quarterbacks in that room, but he could not call an offense or anything like that. I don't know what really most of the coaching staff other than him really did, because I don't really know what DeMarcus Covington did. Like, I didn't know the whole game plan. The defense was all over the place that whole season. I'll say that 10 million times, because there is no reason how you had basically the same defensive players as you did last year, and now we're at the bottom of the league in defense. But if any of you guys want to add on to that, because that's where I'm
So, I mean, I think when you talk about the season, you have to start with the off season, and I would say first with Jerod Mayo and that whole staff. I don't think you went out with the full process, the vetting out the coaching staff of fully interviewing and exploring every option that they could have. I think we know Robert Kraft had a good relationship with Jerod Mayo and, essentially promised him the job a while back. That didn't seem like there was much of a process to exploring any real other options. And then, Alex Van Pelt, he had never called plays before. He was, one of the last guys on the list. I think there could have been a lot better options than that. And I think part of this, do you have something?
Who also, Alex Van Pelt, no one else wanted to interview him, by the way. That too.
Yes. So, I mean, you go with that. DeMarcus Covington, I think he was a Mayo guy, but also never called plays before. So very inexperienced staff. They did not. I think they should have done a much more thorough process of trying to find better guys. And if the Crafts need to actually spend on the coaching staff to, to really start off the process right. And I think that's number one. We can't forget about that. And then the actual offseason, it was not where it needed to be. They had a lot of cash to spend last offseason. They had I think Mayo was saying last year they were ready to burn some cash That was the whole saying. And then, the best, players coming off that season turned out to be Austin Hooper and Antonio Gibson. So that tells you where things were. It's just not as productive as it needed to be. The offensive line, you go back to that in the offseason, the best free agent acquisition was, well, not the best, but the only offensive line acquisition was Chuks Okorafor, who essentially quit on the team halfway through the season.
Did he even make through the first game?
I think he did, but he just left. He just left the team. That was
retired, didn't he?
That was it. He was gone. He was done playing football. That's what this place does to people now. But so it all goes back to the offseason. It wasn't enough done, not enough money spent. And Logan, I mean, you talked about it a lot, the different things that were the problems. The offensive line, I think that's a fireable offense for LA Wolf, like immediately. It was still a disaster, especially around when you knew young quarterback in Drake May, who has shown promise and, emerged behind Brissett and took over pretty early on. The receiving core, obviously, we've talked about. I mean, Patriots fans have talked about that a ton. It's not good enough. The drafting has been terrible at that position. Jalen Polk and Javon Baker is does not cut it. Ladd McConkey had more yards in that Chargers game than they've had all season. So if that tells you anything about where we're at as a receiver, it doesn't stop there. You go with Tyquan Thornton, who we cut. I want to add N'Keal Harry. You want to go back?
I want to add one more thing. Caden Wallace, I think he was our third round pick?
No, he got hurt too. Yep.
He played yesterday, and he was like he wanted the Patriots to lose. The amount of Joe Millen was making plays, and then he would either get called for a holding or an offsides. Yep. He's horrible, but he was the last thing going for the Patriots and them losing that game yesterday. Brett, do you have any thoughts too on the season?
Yeah. So this was a waste of my time. Watching this entire season, besides Drake May, I love Drake May, was a waste of my time. Now I've never disliked a team more than the Patriots this year. I'm sorry. I believe it was the Chargers game. I could be wrong on that. They lost 40-7, and the one touchdown they scored, they were acting like they won the Super Bowl. How? How does that happen? And how is that allowed to happen? I'm sorry. No, I'm really heated about this because they look like idiots. That's what they are. They're a bunch of idiots. And it's just absurd. Like, people are paying a lot of money to go to these games, and crap can't even put out a good offense. Drake May got hurt twice this season. He played 3 snaps yesterday and got sacked once. How? It's absolutely absurd.
You're not wrong.
How awful this team was. The 2 good moments was Drake May with the Titans game at the end. That was sick. And I don't even know what the other one was because there weren't anymore, honestly. I mean, besides Drake May going into the game against the Texans, which was also sick. This team is just a mess, really.
I think
Gonzalez.
I think when you led off with the words "this whole season was a waste of my time," I was gearing up for. You didn't have very nice words to say.
I knew that was coming. Good, but
Are you done? Or are you still going?
Oh no! That was just the beginning.
Okay.
So,
all right, go.
Thank God Christian Gonzalez exists. He's the one person on this team who kept my sanity in check, because without him, I would have lost my mind. Now the offensive line, okay? These guys are a bunch of nobodies. I don't know who any of them are. They suck. Playing in
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Montre Jacobs.
Just, obviously.
Ben Brown.
These guys.
Ben Brown was not bad for those first few games.
I'm not gonna hate on Ben Brown. It's just funny.
I think he could be a good backup.
He wasn't too bad.
Yeah, like he'll be a good backup.
Probably. I mean,
he could. I'll give him that.
Potentially.
He held it down. He held it down. I'll give him that. He was off of the Raiders practice squad. I'll give him that. You keep going. We keep going off topic here.
So yeah, the offensive line needs to change, and that needs to happen quick. Stevenson, I don't know what this dude in his fumbles, but that's a problem too. Because 1, he screwed my fantasy team over. I'm not going to forget that. And 2, he just cost us too many possessions. Like, it's just,
he led the league in fumbles, right? With like 8.
I'm not exactly sure.
7 or 8 fumbles, something like that. Yeah, that was. And I had a lot of expectations for him coming into this year.
he,
Yeah.
he needed to have a big year, and he just didn't.
Yeah.
Gibson looks decent at the end of the
But
season.
he just got a contract extension last offseason.
He did.
A pretty big one for a running back. I think he's getting $9 million a season. Something like that.
Oof.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, we did
So-
extend
Gotta
him.
love that.
Yeah.
That's gonna come back to bite us.
Because when we were re-signing all of our key players from the last year of Belichick, he was one of them, and I think it was somewhere like $9 million. But then players like Anthony Jennings, like those are like he had an all right season. I think he was one of their top leaders in tackles. I think so. He had a pretty good year. But Brett, keep going. I keep cutting you off.
Josh Uche was traded. That just popped to my mind. That really doesn't have
Yep.
anything to do with the season, but
He's gonna go win a title now.
Yeah, with the
probably.
Chiefs. Yeah.
But honestly, I hope the Bills win the AFC this year because they're the only chance Mahomes has at not winning a Super Bowl again. Um, that's besides the point. The two good things I saw, obviously, Drake May and Keyshawn Boot is somewhat decent sometimes. So
Booty, booty, booty.
Booty.
yeah, that's kind of all I got for this one. As you can tell, I am really, really pissed about how awful the season was. Because you know what, I wouldn't be upset if they didn't win yesterday, but the fact that they won yesterday was just like it was
Icing
like
on
a
the cake, really.
punch in the gut. Honestly, I mean, this team can't even manage to lose correctly. How?
Yeah.
We don't know
That
how.
was bad. We got out tanked. We got out tanked yesterday. That was crazy. That was actually crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're probably good on that. It was definitely not the funnest season to watch, but good to know that we found our guy in Drake May, so that's a positive. The Robert Kraft interview is going on as we speak. I might just wait till the end because
I think we should. That's probably a good idea.
I'm currently like saving some quotes from him right now. I'll go over all of that after.
Yeah, they're coming
it's
out now,
over.
so we can just wait.
Yeah, because now we can just move on to our next topic, and probably one where most Patriots fans that if they're actually tuning in probably care about the most. Jerod Mayo was fired like not even an hour after the game ended. So, I mean, is there really anything? What do we think?
Thank God. Yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I couldn't watch
Yeah.
couldn't watch another season of that. I'm just gonna put it plain and simple. I wrote that in my notes. Yeah, no, he needed to go. He needed to go fast. And Kraft finally made a wise decision for once. Took him long enough. Yeah, and Wolf is gonna stay, I believe. That's what the early reports indicate, at least.
Yep.
Give the guy another year to figure it out. I mean, they got 131 million in cap space this offseason, so they could definitely make some moves. So we'll see what he can do with that. Um, but yes, Mayo is gone finally. I was kind of concerned that he was going to stick around for the next season, and watching that again, he doesn't know how to coach. In my opinion, he's never ran a defense, not
He's
even
not ready.
at all. He's just not. He wasn't qualified when Kraft hired him, so I don't really know what Kraft saw in him. Um, but hopefully, whoever they hire, hopefully Vrabel Johnson, whoever it is,
We'll get into that
manages.
too. Like
That's right, yeah.
we'll jump right into that probably after this or sometime.
Hopefully, they can make some moves and win maybe a couple more games.
So I think two things can be true. He was put in an unfair position with little time to turn things around. Like when you think about it, really didn't have a lot.
That
of time.
roster, no, that was a horrible roster. I 100% agree. Yeah,
terrible spot to be in because when you look back, it seems like he was set up. Like he had 1 year to fix that entire mess, which was given to him, and it's it's unfair. That's get that off the top. But he didn't do a good job of keeping things together and really showing any signs of promise. The defense, which was supposed to be his calling card, regressed as we saw, and was really no resemblance of what we saw last year, which was, an actually decent defense. We talked about a little bit before. He was very, erratic at the podium. He would say things and then walk them back the next day. I don't think he had a very good communication with Van Pelt in the offense. I think we saw that a couple of times. After one of the losses to the Cardinals last month, when the Patriots handed it off to Gibson on an unsuccessful 3rd and 1, and then like 4th and 1, I think he was asked after the game, what happened, like something about using Drake May as a rusher, when he had done that in college, and he said, "You said it, I did it."
Yeah.
So that was one thing that it really shows things were at least a little bit dysfunctional, or there was not clear communication between those two. Because why wouldn't you just take it up with your OC if that was something you wanted to do more of? So that was just one thing, but yeah, not a good year for Mayo, and really just set the team back another year of wasted time, just like Brett said.
So I liked the idea of him being like a player's coach, because I was like, we needed something like that. We needed like a change like that. But then as the season went on, I started to like realize, so we have an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. He doesn't call any plays on defense or anything. I started to question, like, what did he do? Because every time the cameras would pan to him, he's just standing there. So I'd always question myself and, like, what is he doing the whole game? Like, how is he managing the clock? It didn't even seem like he did that well at times. And I think where you said he didn't have a good roster, but also, even though Belichick was responsible for the roster last year, he still made them competitive in most games. I know we remember that Dallas game, but other than like that in the Saints game, they were competitive with that horrible roster, and they didn't regress at the end of the season. They got better at the end of the season. As the season went on, they got better. Those last 4 games, they got worse. And I think when you're looking at that as like a owner or general manager, you want to see improvement by the end of the season. And I think you can even, people are comparing the situation to the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell. But the thing people that don't remember is that they were losing games, but they were competitive, and they got better as the season went on. And they still won 3 games. They tied 1, I think, but they still won 3 games that season. And then the following season, they were off to a horrible start, but they're still putting points up on the board, and they're staying competitive. And I think when you're seeing that as an owner, you're like, all right, there's something to build here. There's something to build here. And clearly, they knew what they were doing, where it seemed like here, there was no direction. And that's my take on it. If you guys want to add anything to that.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think the Lions comparison really. I mean, I see what people are saying, but I don't really relate it to.
Well,
it's hard to compare it to this.
I've seen that comparison because, like when people reacted to the firing yesterday, they'd be like, "Well, Dan Campbell only had 3 wins in his first season, and he's in like a similar situation." And I'm like, yeah, but there were actual pieces. You had Jerod Goff. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a good rookie season. You had the wide receiver 1. Patriots don't have that. So
no, we know that. Yeah.
They drafted Penei Sewell that same year, and then the following year they drafted Aiden Hutchinson. Like, they were building something. And Dan Campbell, even though they were losing games, it was clear that Dan Campbell, even though they lost a lot of games that year, that they were building a culture. And that it looked, even on the sideline, that Dan Campbell cared. When they beat, was it the Vikings? When that Jerod Goff throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown? That whole sideline went crazy. When Jerod Goff ran over and hugged Dan Campbell, that meant something. When was the last time we won a game? Who was our last win to? Was it the Bears?
Bears or Bears?
Bears. I think it was the Bears. Yeah, because we beat the Jets a few weeks before that. We
Okay,
did
yeah.
not celebrate like they did in any of those wins. I guess the first win against the Bengals, like we dumped the Gatorade on Jerod Mayo, but like I feel like that's what you do when your head coach gets his first career win. That's what you do. That's what everyone does, I think. But after that, it's like they were kind of just treating it like week to week as if they still had a chance to go to the playoffs. But I don't know. That team, even in Hard Knocks, when Jamal Williams was all pissed off, being like, all I think
Yeah.
about is that record. I'm like, dude, they are building something. It's not perfect, but they are building it. That was not the direction for the Patriots.
No, not at all. And I kind of feel like besides the Cincinnati game, um, they were how the Bills played yesterday kind of felt how the Patriots played all season, if that makes sense. They put their second and third stringers out there, and the Patriots had their starters, not the whole game, obviously, but if we're looking at the starting players play against the other teams, and then how the Bills played against the Patriots yesterday, it looked very similar. They just didn't care. It looked like the Bills were just there just because they had to be, and that's how it looked like the Patriots were playing all season, which is why you're really not seeing that level of intensity like the Lions had, like you guys were talking about. And that's where the kind of the culture falls apart because your coach is having a hard time keeping the locker room under control. You have very few bright spots, and now the locker room intensity and how much they want to win is lacking because of that. And that's when the issues start to arise. And as we saw this year, there were many issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something else that came out of the locker room, which really is a result of losing. I mean, all this happens, all the bad stuff comes out when you lose. It's really just a product of that. But when players start, firing back at the fans, it's just not the best look, and they're doing it, out of good heart. Like they want to defend their team and their coach. They don't want to, just lie down and just take it. But I mean, it's just a tough spot. But I don't know. I don't think calling out the fans is the best spot for a team, and it just kind of deteriorated towards the end. But
Well, I feel
yeah,
like especially playing here specifically, like playing here, Buffalo, anywhere they have a really big football culture. Like we won for 20 years, and now we're stuck with the number one pick in the draft. I mean, I don't know what they were expecting, like a standing O or something like that. You're down, you know, like 42 points, 33 points. Sorry, my math is
yeah,
awful, but you
yeah.
get the point. And then you're gonna call up the fans. That I mean, luckily that happened at the end of the season, so it's not like that would have carried on all season. But that now your locker room's a mess, and now you have the fans against you. Right
Yeah.
there, you can't even recover from that. Maybe you can recover from the locker room stuff, maybe, but
I
the
mean,
fans here are ruthless, and you're gonna know what they
yeah,
feel. Like they got booed off the field. I think almost every game this season. Every game. I went to one game, they booed, it was like week 6 when Drake May started the first game, they got booed off the field. Like, it was ridiculous how
what
bad
they
they
win
were.
one? They win one home game. Was that?
They might have yeah, I think so.
I think it was one.
Yeah, the Jets game.
Yeah,
So, I
that's.
mean, yeah,
Uh,
calling out the fans is the last thing that they should have done, and it happened, and that's the season the season overall just was a mess, but as the season went on, just more and more big things happened, which made the fans made the team less likable, I should say.
All right, so we'll move on to the next thing, but um Crab's press conference isn't over yet, but I'm like saving like tweets and like quotes and stuff. There's gonna be stuff to talk about from this, so I'm definitely excited for that. But we'll move on to now probably another favorite topic for Patriots fans right now. Who should be the next head coach?
Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel.
Yes, he's the most
period.
qualified. I like Johnson, but he seems very offensive minded, which is something with this offense which would be good. But I'm unsure of his abilities to coach as a head coach.
Hmm.
Personally, I haven't done too much research on him, so honestly, I really don't know too much about the guy. But if I'm choosing between Vrabel, who's already an established coach who took the Titans from being awful to the AFC Championship, I'd rather take that because I already know what he can do, and he knows the culture here already, as when he was a player here back when Brady was here in the early 2000s. So I'm picking
Hmm.
Vrabel personally, but I know you guys might have some different opinions on that than I do.
Um, I wouldn't mind Vrabel because it's come out that it seems like he wants to take the job, and I think
Yeah.
someone that wants to take the job here, you want that. You want someone that, especially with the dumpster fire that this team is in right now, you want someone that wants to coach here, and someone like him who has the experience actually coaching. And I think he's the more likely candidate because he already has that head coaching experience and he's already showed what he can do as a head coach. As if you bring in Ben Johnson, that's just another rookie head coach. And it could either be really good or
You don't know.
you're picking another head coach in 2 years maybe. But um I think Vrabel seems to be the safe option. Because if you pick him, like, we're probably not going to be good next year, but chances are we'll probably get maybe a few more wins. Like, it might end up being a 6 or 7 win season rather than a 3 to 4 win season because he'll know how to manage the game. He already said that it's already like been reported that he'll bring a coaching staff with him, that he already has like a few assistants in mind that he would bring with him. I don't know if they're from the Browns too or anything like that, but it said like he would bring in like assistant coaches with him as well. But I think that's a good plan. And even like um the Crafts in their interview with Ben Johnson, because that's been a thing as Ben Johnson accepted an interview with the Patriots, is they can use ideas if he brings up ideas for Drake May, they could use those ideas and implement it for Vrabel too. Or even Brian Flores would be a good candidate. He calls defensive plays, and we're seeing it with the Vikings how good he's been this year. Now I know
Yes.
the Vikings just got whooped
Just
last night.
that's yeah.
To the Lions, who have Ben Johnson calling offensive plays versus Flores' defense. But then it also comes down to the fact that Ben Johnson he's calling plays for an offense that probably has the best offensive line in the league. Jerod Goff, who's playing at an MVP level. Jahmyr Gibbs, who is a top 5 running back in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And did I already mention their offensive line?
Yeah.
Yeah, top offensive line. You have Sam Laporta, who might not have been as impactful as he was last year, but he's still an option for that offense. And Jameson Williams, who has come on this season. There's just so many weapons, and for the Patriots, if you bring him here, there's only so much he can do. He has the quarterback, but what else is there that he doesn't have what he had in Detroit? And I think that's the thing that you got to think about for people that want Ben Johnson.
Yeah. So, I would say that between the two, I would lean Vrabel and appears so if he's a leading candidate. I think that's fine that they have him as, a leading candidate. I still want them to go through the whole process of, the different head coaches, and it seems like they're open to that.
Yeah, it looks like
with
they are
Ben
doing
Johnson.
That. Yeah.
So I'm happy to hear that. So it seems like the process is starting off right. Some people would tend to say that Vrabel's another Patriots guy, leading another Patriots, but I'm like he's gone his separate way. He separated himself from the organization. He went to the Titans. He had success there. So
He also
I like
didn't
that
he coach at Ohio State?
I think so. Yeah.
I heard something that I don't know if anyone want to
Maybe.
fact check that. I heard something that he went to Ohio State because I heard like Ohio State fans were like, "Come home, Mike." I was seeing that they wanted him to go back. I didn't even know he was ever there.
But yeah, I think I would lean Vrabel. I like the choice. I think it would help stabilize things. I think he would get the organization to a spot where they would be ready to compete again. I think anyone that takes this job knows it's a process. You're not there right now. You have a lot of
Yeah.
work to do, and so,
And I think with Vrabel, the team would compete. In that last season with Tennessee last year, that team was horrible. They were still competing. They were still
Yeah.
playing. Like, they were still competing. They were in the games. Like, he did well because the general manager and the front office in Tennessee is not that good. They're not great. Like, they traded
Yeah.
A.J. Brown. Like, you guys remember when they traded A.J. Brown? He, like, walked out of the room. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
That was so funny. That was so funny.
I mean, you look at their schedule this year. How many more wins would they have with just competent coaching staff? I mean,
Yeah.
You take the Seahawks game,
Seahawks game.
winnable game. Dolphins, that was a winnable game.
That was the game with Tyler Huntley, right?
Yes, and we still lost that. I mean, I would say the Jaguars. The Jaguars beat us by a good amount, but like that was definitely a winnable game if you had your stuff together. I mean, the Titans game, winnable game. I mean,
Well, and
Colts.
and this was also the thing with Jerod Mayo is he doesn't have the connections. Like, he doesn't have the experience to bring in assistants. Like, if you bring in a Ben Johnson, he would be able to bring in assistants that I would somewhat know what they're doing. He would be able to bring in like defensive coaches because he has connections. Because he's coached. He's been on other teams. He has connections. Jerod Mayo's only been with the Patriots, and he did other stuff before he came back to coaching. I forgot what all that other stuff was. And then Mike Vrabel already said he'll bring in assistants, but he also has connections too. He knows people. So he would be able to bring in assistants. So there's that. Because Dan Campbell said, I don't know when he said this, but he said the most important thing that a coach can do is bring in a coaching staff. And Jerod Mayo wasn't able to do that. Mike Vrabel can do that. And there's a chance that Ben Johnson can do that.
I forgot what
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
I mean-
Oh yeah. Real quick, Vrabel did coach at Ohio State from 2011 2013. He was a linebackers coach under Urban Meyer.
There it is.
Okay. So he wasn't the head coach.
No, he was not.
Where did he go after that?
After that, hold up.
You already got off the page.
Well,
Seriously?
I kind of only looked up if he coached at Ohio State. I didn't really look at his track record.
Because he went to Tennessee. His first year in Tennessee was 2018. So if he was from a linebackers coach until 2013, where was he for those other 5 years?
He coached at Houston for a little bit after
Texans?
well, in
Or
Houston for the Texans, yeah, for the
Okay.
Texans. And then he went to the Titans after that. So he left Ohio State in 2013, was with the Texans from 13 to 17, and then went to the Titans.
what was he doing for the Texans?
I think he was a linebackers coach again.
Really?
He might have been. Let me check that. Hold on.
Really? So that's interesting then. How if he was
He was a defensive coordinator. That makes sense.
well, yeah, okay, there we go. He has
He's going
experience.
up. He's ascending. Yeah.
He was a linebackers coach, went to a defensive coordinator, and then went to a head coach. That's perfect. That's what needs to happen. That's literally how it goes in these situations. Instead, Jerod Mayo skipped the defensive coordinator part.
Yeah.
He skipped that part. He had no experience at least calling defensive plays. And I think I don't think Vrabel called defensive plays in Tennessee though.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't think
think
so.
Seems like another fat check.
It seems like in Tennessee he really just managed the game, but he did it good, I think.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty
That's what I
sure
always thought of him.
I'm pretty sure up until the year where they traded AJ Brown, he had a winning season all those years.
Yeah. He did not call any plays.
He didn't call defensive plays? All right.
No.
But he
No,
still has the experience calling defensive plays, though. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's that to build from. and he got a head coaching job from calling defensive plays. So,
Right.
but and that's what you need. You need someone that has experience as a play caller and as a head coach who did well when you had, and he even did fine when you didn't have a good roster. It was his final 2 seasons in Tennessee. He didn't have a good roster. When they traded A.J. Brown, there was nothing there. But the defense was still good, I believe. I'll even look. I'll look at the.
Yeah,
Well, I think
that's really what you've been. Sorry, you want to go ahead?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You've been talking a lot.
So, I mean, we keep saying it, but the experience is the main thing because you go back a couple years when you had Matt Patricia and Joe Judge running the offense. I mean, it hasn't been a stable situation since even when Bill was here, but the last at least 5 or so years, it's been really just not an experienced staff. It's not set up for success for any quarterback here, any offense.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you have the chance to fix it here. You cannot screw this one up. You cannot mess this decision up. You have to nail this. Because the fan base is very impatient right now, understandably. You need to get this right. There's not a lot of time to fix. I mean, you got to get it together. That's really the place we're at right now. But
yeah.
I don't know if you're still looking things up over there, but
I don't know. I'm trying to find where they ranked in those final years, but I can't really find anything. So, I would be 100% open to Vrabel because I already said it's a safe option. It's a safe option. You're gonna be competing, and I think that's what the Crafts want. They want to be competing, at least at the bare minimum, competing in games, and at least getting close to being in the hunt for the playoffs. And I think if that's where they are next season, I would see that as a success. Saying that they have Mike Vrabel and he has a competent coaching staff with him, that they would at least be in the hunt and be competitive next season.
you want to be in the hunt category on the screen. You need to be there.
Yes.
And if they're in that conversation, I'd see that as a win, because then there's something to build off of from next year. But now it seems like
we want to Wolf if we want.
Well, the press conference ended, so
yeah, there's some good quotes coming out. If we want to just skip to that, I mean,
yeah. So the first thing that Robert Kraft said, he took full responsibility for the situation. He quote said, "This whole situation is on me," which it is. The whole situation is on him. And then another thing he said is he plans to move fast with hiring a new head coach, and it seems like they're doing that too. Already,
it seems that way.
Asked to interview Ben Johnson, and it seems like soon they're going to be interviewing Mike Vrabel, as it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see another thing he said. He also said, "I feel terrible for Jerod because I put him in an untenable situation."
And then
this
quote is what we were just talking about with Jerod Mayo. This was Robert Kraft on what the tipping point was in deciding to fire head coach Jerod Mayo. The main thing for me is I felt we regressed. The high point of everything was winning in Cincinnati game, and then in midseason we started to regress. And that's what I mentioned earlier with the last season of Bill Belichick. It seems that we got better in those final games, while with Jerod Mayo we got worse. And that can't happen, because how do you expect to keep a job and expect there to be something to build from this year if the final games were worse? And I guess another example is the Panthers know that they can keep moving with Bryce Young and their head coach is because they ended the season so good. So good. Yesterday versus the Falcons, Bryce Young threw 5 touchdown passes, and that's just an example of how well he's played down the stretch. And because of that, they're going to keep their head coach, and they're sticking with Bryce Young, and they're confident that they have their guy. And the Patriots are confident that they have their guy because he showed that. But what Jerod Mayo didn't show is that he can make it, like, because usually you're supposed to be better. Like, we were expecting probably those first few weeks to be bad, which the whole season was bad, so it never got better.
No.
And then another quote was, "I don't want to go through this next year. We're going to do what we've got to do to fix it." And I don't know what he was asked there, but I'm assuming he's talking about, like, he doesn't want to go through the same situation next year. I'm assuming that's what he means. And then this quote is Robert Kraft on the Patriots and the salary cap. So this is a big one. We have never told any coach to limit his spending. The only thing we've said is if you exceed the cap, we'd like to see it leveled out over 3 years. We want to win. That's our priority first.
Where was that when Belichick was here? But that's besides the point.
Do you have anything like that, or do you want to hear the next?
Okay,
one?
well,
that was a good one. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know. I don't fully believe that. I mean, we've seen it. They've been lasting cash spending for a number of years, so I don't truly believe the coach had full reign to do whatever they want.
They did really go after Calvin Ridley last offseason, though. They really did go after him. Now, is he worth that contract? No. But did they go after him? Yes.
Well, with that, I want to see if they just give T. Higgins basically a blank check. I mean, he's obviously by far the best free agent in the free agent class right now.
Yeah.
But if they attack him like with a high level of spending, which he may or may not deserve, depending on to which point it gets to, I want to see how aggressive they are with him. Because if they're really aggressive, that could show based off that quote. But if they kind of fall back and aren't the top contenders because of how much they're willing to pay, then that changes the whole thing.
They need to prove it.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Like, this offseason, this offseason is huge because they need to go out there. They're saying that they want to win, but the only way that they can win is they got to spend and get players that will get your team wins.
Yeah, I think they will spend. I don't feel the same way I do about the Red Sox about them. I think they don't really have a choice here. He has kind of said it now. He just went out and said it. I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
You can only walk back so much. You have to. They did in 2021. About half of it worked out. I mean, we can go back and go through it all, but some of it worked out, some of it didn't. This is a spot where you really have to spend, and the free agent class isn't amazing by any means. I mean, that's what people said. It's not like one of the best classes of free agents, but you just have to do. Yeah, you have to do what you can to improve this team, the free agent market, and trade. It doesn't end there. You can use draft capital, get better assets. You got to get creative.
Well, if they want to get a wide receiver, T. Higgins is pretty much their only option.
Well, I like Chris Godwin. If worse comes to worse, obviously he's not the greatest pick ever, and that's not something that you hear Chris Godwin signs. Holy crap, because Chris Godwin signed. Now I would say that about T. Higgins, but at least Chris Godwin is decent. He's better than whatever we have now.
I was gonna say that. I mean, we're not really spot to be picky. We just need better receivers.
He would be instantly the best receiver on this team, but the thing is, we just want another all right receiver though, who is coming off of a torn ACL.
He does get injured.
He's gotten injured over the years. Who knows how much money he's going to ask for? He honestly might even take a pay cut to stay with the Buccaneers. So,
who knows?
And the thing is, why would he want to come here? Unless we pay him a boatload of money, which I don't think he deserves.
I mean, you can really say that about any free agent. Why would you want to come here? You have to overpay. You're in a spot that you have to pay the suck tax.
He's not the player that I would overpay to bring in here. Like, I would overpay for T. Higgins because he's younger. He does get injured, But when he's on the field, we saw what he's done when he's on the field. The Broncos game, he shows you what he can do. And that's a good defense that he did it against. So that's a player. And the Bengals are probably going to do as much as they can to keep him as well. But if they can't get him, you $30 million a season or more. I don't care. Get him in here. Give Drake that weapon that he can count on. And also, another thing to point out, Hunter Henry, when we signed him, everyone said the same thing. He's injured so much. Things can change. Things can change. For some reason, I feel like when free agents come here, knock on wood, they're healthy for the most part.
We saw the same thing with Austin Hooper this year. I mean, he didn't show a lot of production, but he did pretty well for what was going on here, honestly.
He was one of our best free agency signings, which says how much we did in free agency last offseason. But Chris Godwin, he's 28 years old, coming off of a torn ACL or whatever it is, broken ankle or something like that. He's coming off of a season-ending injury. He's 28. He's already getting up there for the age. While if you bring in T. Higgins, he's 3 years younger. He's 25 years old. Turning 26 on the 18th of January, actually. So he'll be turning 26 in a few weeks. As for Godwin's 28, coming off of a season-ending injury. So I think you just got to be smart.
Because has to be the number one target. No doubt.
But anyways, back to the quotes, because that was actually a good topic to bring up, though. But did Robert Kraft have any input on how the Patriots handled the season finale? And he said no.
Okay, so he's pissed.
Yeah.
Great.
Robert Kraft says the Patriots personnel department underwent heavy changes last offseason, but he also acknowledges the team hasn't drafted well in a while.
You don't think so?
Joked the team may have lucked out by finding 2 quarterbacks in their last draft.
we may have lucked out.
Yeah. Well, if we're smart,
God,
I don't know. I'm just getting to the next quote.
It'd be funny if it wasn't so true.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, it's just another. Our drafts hasn't been good in a while. Says he thinks they'll see improvement and noted Elliott Wolf's grading system was newly implemented.
What's his grading system on Jalen Polk?
I'm very eager to see what that
Baker.
Was.
How's that grading system look?
How much was Jonathan Kraft involved in this situation? That's Robert Kraft's son. He said, for over 30 years, he's been with me in decisions I made in my life. He'll continue to be involved. So
I think he should almost. He's getting ready to turn the team over to him, which is what I want to happen.
So. I hope
because I think Jonathan needs to be in charge.
Yeah. And then there was another quote where it was. Wait, I'm gonna have to go digging for another quote, but there's this one. Will spending on football operations staffers this offseason and paying those who are out impact your willingness to spend on players this offseason? And that's also another big question. And Kraft answered no. So but then again, they gotta go out and show it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, he can say all that. It's good. I'm glad he's saying it. It's just really about proving it. Fans are sick of just hearing the talk about it, especially in terms of spending. You'd have to go prove it. But I don't know. I'm glad he's saying it, but it doesn't mean that much right now.
Yeah, no. It's just the actions right now. Ooh, another. Not news about the Patriots, but the Bears have requested to speak with Giants offensive coordinator Matt Kafka for their vacant head coaching job.
Interesting.
That would have been a good one like 3 years ago. I don't know about now.
Who can fix the Bears? That's oof.
Ooh.
That's the question of the
Um,
century.
this question was asked. I didn't see this one. Is Mike Vrabel at the top of your coaching list? And then this is Kraft's response. Before I make a comment like that, I don't know all of the people involved. There are some wonderful people we've heard about. I'd rather respond to that after I've seen everyone.
Okay, I actually like that. Only because it shows he said he wants to do it quick, but he's also giving all the options and opportunity here. Unlike
Yeah.
last time when he interviewed like 3 people and said we're hiring Mayo because why not?
Yeah.
Um, so I like that out of him, shockingly
And I'm trying to find
enough.
this other quote, but I'm hoping that I'm hoping that this will bring change, but I think it's just going to keep coming down to like is it like what like they got to show it, and I
Yeah.
think we're going to have to see it with whoever they bring in as the coach, who are they bringing in their staff, and then what are they doing for free agents? How are they filling the holes in their roster? But I'm trying to find this quote if you guys want to keep talking about anything to do with
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I guess we'll just have to stay tuned. I mean, free agency's gonna start up in March, I believe, and then
Yeah.
everything goes from there. But I don't know. I'm gonna keep probably saying the same thing, but it's really about going out showing it. They have a lot of needs, so a lot of things to address. Some of that can be through the draft. Need a tackle. Need
I feel
receivers.
I feel like the Patriots really want to be aggressive this year in a way similar to 2021 where they just spent all their money on the first day
Mm.
and got excuse me, all the players that they wanted right off the bat. Like, I mean, that was like an 8 hour like time for we signed like 12 players. I mean, probably not 12, but a lot of really decent players. And that season ended up being a pretty decent one for Mac Jones' rookie season. So, I mean, based on how Kraft is talking, it sounds to me that they're trying to do something similar. Maybe not obviously in one day, but with free agency attack it where they can get a lot of good, decent players to at least set themselves up for the future and not fall regress again like they have the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, and I would just I remember where when that first day when they started signing like literally everyone. I was I was so excited when I heard we had Jonnu Smith
Yeah.
and Hunter Henry. I was like, oh my god, now we're gonna take off now. Looking back at that, that's us.
Robert
Didn't work out exactly, but
Robert Kraft did not tell the coaching staff reportedly how he was going to handle the final game of the season with the number 1 overall pick on the line. So it seems like Jerod Mayo had no idea he was going to get fired after the game.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you tell a coach, hey, by the way, you're going to coach this last game, but after that, you're not going to have a job. So, I mean, I don't think you could do that, really.
I don't know. The way he was like, he seemed happy when Joey Sly kept making those field goals. He's like, I'm gonna screw them at the end. Like I
Well,
don't know. He felt
I
that
don't know.
way, and then his whole response to like when Mike Reese asked him about the pin that he usually wears for Robert Kraft and his organization for like Jewish hate and all that, and he was just like, like, you guys can write a story about it if you want, blah 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 blah. He's just like, I don't know. I just felt
Yeah.
like he kind of knew something was coming.
And
I feel like he would. Go
so
on, dude.
Kraft also said that top personal executives Elliot Wolf and Alonzo Highsmith will be involved in head coaching interviews for Jerod Mayo's successor, and they will be staying on the staff. So it looks like Wolf will be staying, but you don't. It looks like there's not a role right now, but he's going to be involved, and he's
Oh,
looking for people that are willing to work together.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a key quality to have, I'd say, for a football team.
Oh, you mean you don't want them to be dysfunctional?
Well, if they're all really isolated from each other, I really think that's going to prove to be a great success in the future.
Yeah, I mean that's probably how they ran things this year, and it worked out great. So
Yes. Honestly, bring another season like that.
I don't know. I don't love it. I mean, I guess you can give him another year to figure things out because this year was just a disaster. I mean, I'll just go back to one of his quotes. He said, I think it was the article that came out from Henry McKenna. He said, I would say that I guess personally I was expecting maybe a little bit more internal development.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of blaming the coaching staff for not getting guys to play a little bit better, but we're looking back at his offseason and how he handled the roster. It's really a lot of it's on him.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel, but
No, it's pretty much. But then again, how are they gonna? It's really just a matter of time before we see it, like, because we're not gonna know until next season, pretty much,
true.
on
Yeah.
how. Because if he's staying on, that means he's gonna be drafting a whole another draft of players. So that's just a whole nother thing.
Well, with the Patriots clearing house, one thing that they need to avoid is another Mac Jones situation. Because now look at this, right? With Mac
Oh,
Jones, you switch your offensive coordinator 3 times in his 3 seasons here, right? Now, in the grand scheme of things, that ruined his career because he was a very bright star his rookie year, awesome season, and he just kept regressing, and now he has no confidence in Jacksonville, or maybe a little bit. He didn't play terribly, but he could be better now with Drake May. You fire the head coach and the offensive coordinator. Now that's not a problem because it's only his first year. But now if this continues to be a trend like it was with Mac, where now we're firing the new offensive coordinator next season, it could easily result in the same thing. Now, I think Kraft learned from that and it won't happen. But I'm saying if it were to happen, we could easily have a very similar situation to what we already had. And then, restart from square one with a new quarterback again.
Hmm. Um. I mean, the only Justin Herbert's has had 4 different offensive coordinators. I don't know if any of you guys knew that.
wow.
Dang.
Um, but I think that just it says something to him. But I think Drake May showed that he can learn fast, because everyone said how raw of a prospect he was, and I think he clearly showed that this season he can learn quickly. So but it really will just depend on who's the coach. And I think people bring up the Mac thing and how that ruined his career, how bringing in 3 different offensive coordinators, but people forget that that second offensive coordinator wasn't an offensive coordinator.
True.
So I think
That
it's
is
really
correct.
like whoever the head coach is going to be next, it's really who he picks as that offensive coordinator and how he continues the development of Drake May. Because Drake May is an appealing quarterback that you want to coach because he has all the intangibles. But should we
Yeah.
move on?
I mean, we don't know a lot right now, so
Yeah.
I guess we'll just leave it at that. We'll see how things develop.
So now we can come up with right now we can start to come up with the season being over now. We can start to come up with like an off-season plan. And since we're not the people actually running the show, this is pretty much just what we hope will happen. So, anyone want to go first?
I mean, I kind of already touched on mine. I like Vrabel. For OC, I like McDaniels. I just trust him because of the past. So
Well,
we'll
it
see.
doesn't, and like you don't have to go into like every coaching hire
Yeah,
possible. You can just
I'm
be,
just going
you can
for
just
like the
have
big ones.
like
I mean, Brett, you can talk
coach.
about the assistant linebackers coach if you want, but
I think I'm good there. For the
okay.
big guys, the OC head coach, McDaniel's, Vrabel, I'm fine with that. You got 131 million in cap space. You got a bright future, fourth round, and the fourth pick in the draft. So you can easily draw the attention here in some way, shape, or form with your potential coaching hires, as we've already seen. There's already interest from potential candidates
Hmm.
early on here. Obviously, working with the wide receivers, I like T. Higgins. They need to give him a blank check and say, whatever you want, here you go, have fun, and sign him. Because if they can't get Travis Hunter, which I don't think he'll be around, even if they were to get him, I think he'd go on defense.
Hmm.
Um, I see T. Higgins being a great weapon, especially for Drake May, because we know what he can do, and now I want to see what he can do with an actual talented receiver. Um, for the draft, obviously, I like Travis Hunter, but we're saying chances are he's not going to be available. So I'm thinking a lineman. I don't really have anybody too specific right now for a lineman, but with the fourth pick, you kind of have a lot of options to pick a good one. So Elliott Wolf can't screw this up. And I'm kind of wondering if the Pats will trade Joe Milton because we were talking before. I mean, they could get a fifth round pick for him. He did really well yesterday, and that definitely raised his trade value. So we'll see what can happen there. But really, they just need to hit on every single one of their signings and draft picks this year. Or else, well, maybe not every single draft pick, but
No
definitely the big
pressure.
ones.
No pressure at all.
Every single one. Do not fail.
Like maybe if they can hit on their first, second, and third, I'll be happy.
Yeah. So if you, Elliot Wolf is staying, I'm all aboard to bring in Vrabel for a head coach. I'm all aboard with that. Honestly, just anyone that is competent at this point, I am fine with.
The bar is low here.
Yeah, the bar is very low. Like
Just
seriously.
like do your job. Like
Yeah,
just
no.
do it correctly, and then we'll take it.
And then as for free agency, if we're talking about players that we want to bring back that are on the team currently, I would think about re-signing Hooper and Gibson. I'd bring them back. Me personally, I thought
Yeah.
they did
I
well
agree.
in their role. If Gibson gets more carries, he'll have a pretty productive season because he had a pretty productive season in the role that he was in with the limited amount of carries that he had. I would be 100% on board bringing back Antonio Gibson for another year and see what happens. Because I believe he is a free agent. I can also fact check this right now, but I'm fine bringing back Antonio Gibson. As for the draft, with the 4th overall pick, there's really 3 players that I'm going to try and stay consistent in wanting with that 4th overall pick. If you want a receiver, you take Ted McMillan, 6'5", 210 pounds. He's shifty. If you just watch his film, somehow like no one can tackle him for some reason. He just bounces off tackles like it's nothing. And then if you want offensive line help, which it's that and wide receiver,
That's
that's
us,
like
yeah.
offensive line help and wide receiver. That's like 2 of the biggest like needs right there. Kelvin Banks at Texas is a good option. Big tackle. He's a little big, but if that's just something that he'll have to slim down a little bit once he gets to the NFL. And then if we want someone to get after the quarterback, Abdul Carter. He is a monster at Penn State. And especially because Penn State, I believe, won their last matchup in the college playoff. So in their next game versus Penn State, I will be paying a lot of attention to him and seeing how he does because he's been getting after the quarterback all season. And I don't know, you guys also, like, there's a lot to pay attention to on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball, the quarterbacks that have been going against the Patriots, they've had a lot of time to throw the ball.
A lot.
And Abdul Carter is an edge rusher. So if we really want to bank on taking someone that we think will be a huge difference maker on the defensive side, and maybe even Mike Vrabel with him being a defensive sided coach, that might be like the type of player that might want to start his, what's the word I'm looking for? Like what's
Tenure? I don't know.
not like his tenure, but like his culture. His culture.
Yeah.
And like as long as you hit, it won't be an issue. Because if you draft him and he's getting after the quarterback, it's all good. And then it's pretty much what you have to do with those picks after. If you draft Ted McMillan, say with that 4th overall pick, it's now you're gonna have a high 2nd round pick. Are you taking a tackle? Are you gonna draft someone to get after the quarterback? But Honestly, like I haven't done that much, and out of the first round, I haven't really looked into other draft prospects that much. Um, but Matt, you got anything?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to sound too repetitive here, but the the head coach, I'd be good with Vrabel if they find Ben Johnson and that works. I don't think I don't think I'll have a problem with that. Um, then from there, I mean, there's a lot of needs on the roster that need to be addressed. We talked about T. Higgins. I think that should be the number one priority in the offseason. If that doesn't for some reason happen, I think you need to trade some draft picks, some assets to go get a receiver. Someone like DK Metcalf could possibly be available. We'll see how that develops. I mean, we went through the whole thing last year with Brandon Ayuk, which, that was torture going through all that. That we thought he was going to come here, it didn't happen. But either way, you need to get a number one receiver, and I would like at least two coming into next season that are better than what we have right now. I think that's what we need to establish. I'm just scrolling on the list here on this website of all the free agents. So I mean, tight end, I think I would like Cooper here. He did well this season with what he seemed like he had a good connection with Drake May. Came up pretty clutch in a few situations.
Jonathan Jones is a free agent. Are you guys bringing him back? He didn't have he had a off season this year.
Short term deal maybe, maybe a 1 or 2 year maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. The defense was already really bad.
I'm kind of
and
iffy. I'm iffy on him.
Had a year at best. I don't know.
He's a good leader.
I guess
Good.
right as the team stands right now, you kind of have to keep him for at least another year because you don't have any better options. But if it can find a better option, then he'd be gone in my book.
I think it honestly will just come down to whoever the head coach is. If it's Mike Vrabel, he'll probably be back on like a 1-year deal, I think. If it's Ben Johnson, probably like see you later. But
we'll see. I mean, the tackles, the situation there. I mean, it really depends what you do, what their plan is with the draft and everything. But there's some tackles you could sign on the free agent market. But
let's say every single Patriots player was a free agent, who are you bringing back? If every single Patriots player is a free agent, they're all of them are free agents. How many of the Patriots that are on the current roster right now would you bring in to start a regime with like Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson, someone like that?
Wow. All right.
Because it's not many.
So, no, it's not. It's a very short list.
Yeah.
But everyone's on the board. So you need Drake May. You need your quarterback.
Yep.
You need Christian Gonzalez.
Yep.
Lockdown corner.
Yep.
I would say I want Demario Douglas back. I know he's not like a 3 or 4 maybe. He's. I still like him. I like his speed.
Booty and Douglas should be the only receivers I would take back.
I like them too. They can stay.
Hunter Henry.
He's good.
He's been your only consistent offensive weapon ever since you signed him the first time.
I would bring back Barmore, assuming his heart doesn't explode. But I hope he stays healthy. But I liked him when he came out of the draft, and he had been good. But it's something he really can't he has no control over that. But I do like how he plays when he's healthy. He helps stop the run, which they have a clear issue of. They cannot stop the run at all. So I would bring Barmore. It's hard to think of anyone else. Joey Sly. You bringing Joey Sly back?
No, I wouldn't.
And a new kicker, Chad Ryland, bring him back.
Mike Vrabel doesn't really like kickers. If we're saying Mike Vrabel's the coach, he doesn't really like kickers that much. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other people. I don't. It's a short. Marcus Jones, maybe some special packages for him.
I would bring back Alex Austin if you didn't say him.
I don't think I said him, but no, he's been good this year.
What are our thoughts on Jabril Peppers there? Personally, I would take him back.
Again, it will depend who the coach is, I think.
This is us, though. This is our picks.
Yeah. If I was
I
coach,
had the option, is that what you're saying? If I had the option to,
yeah, if I'm the
Yeah.
head coach of the Patriots, I'm doing Jabril Peppers, I'm doing Mayo Douglas, Antonio Gibson. Look, sounds
I,
like a hot take. I know.
I mean, but who knows?
This team sucks. So I mean,
We
you
know we're
know,
picking from trash.
I know, but it's like, who knows with this whole situation? Is he even going to be effective now? Because he came back, and he was not that effective when he came back.
well, he was also gone for like half the season. So I mean, if he has a full season without getting suspended by the league, I think he can do something. But that's
It
saying if he has a full season.
that's so. If the league told me that Jabril Peppers is clear, he's able to come back, nothing's happening to him. Like as with, especially
Hope he's not in jail. Yep.
since you just basically re-signed him last year, I would, because he's under contract for at least another 2 years. So I would, because you'd probably have to eat a good amount of money if you released him. I mean, he's probably one of your better defensive players when he's playing and not doing crimes.
God,
Yeah.
this team is a mess.
Talking about this team for the hour and 16 minutes that we have, I'm drained. Like,
Oh, yeah, this is
like the enthusiasm, I can tell the enthusiasm has really died down in the past hour. It's really died down.
it's what talking about this team does to you. It really
Yeah,
does.
no,
seriously.
it makes you physically depressed. Yeah, no, this team really just makes
Well, you have to think about everything that's happened. How can you be happy? How can you be
You
happy?
can't.
There's nothing to really be happy about.
the thing is I'm gonna look back on the season similar to how I did with the Mac Jones seasons, look back and be like, damn, I miss laughing at this team every week because of how
Yeah.
bad they are.
Yeah, I think that's
That's what
a fair point.
I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, I just miss laughing at Mac Jones throw the ball right to the other team. Like it was just that bad. Like you just have to laugh at some point because at that point the pain is just too much.
I mean, I think it will at least be interesting to see what happens these next few months. It will definitely be an interesting next month, and just see who, like, other than, because that actually hasn't even been reported yet that we're going to interview Mike Vrabel. The only person that we're interviewing right now is Ben Johnson. That's it right now. But assuming, like, it'll be coming up probably in the next few days, like, that we're going to be interviewing Mike Vrabel. But I'm also curious to hear, like, what other coaches we're gonna reach out to, like what other coordinators we're gonna reach out to and interview for the job. Cause
Yeah,
like,
the
see,
list when it comes out should be interesting.
because I'm also like, who else would we reach out to? I can see definitely Brian Flores, because that's another former Patriots coordinator.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, you're saying, oh my God, I don't think.
Right.
I
You
think
hate him. What is wrong with
I
you,
I don't
Brett?
like
think
this guy.
I think he'll be good the second time around.
I don't know.
I genuinely
There's something
do. I
about
think
him.
he knows he messed up the first time with the Dolphins. I think he knows he didn't do a good job. And he didn't even do a bad job. He didn't have a losing season. He didn't have a losing season there.
I don't know.
Just say it, Brett. What do you want to say?
What about this guy? Like when I hear the name Brian Flores, I'm thinking that is an incompetent head coach.
Oh,
Okay.
Well,
wow.
Now
shouldn't you say the same thing about Vrabel?
I could, but Brian Flores didn't make it to the AFC Championship,
Hmm. But
and
Mike,
maybe part of it's just because he coached
but
the Dolphins, and I just really
yeah,
don't like the
Brian
Dolphins.
Flores never had a AJ Brown, Derrick Henry.
No,
His
well, he
quarterbacks were Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua.
but he
Tua turned the
made
ball
Jimmy
over.
Oh wait, no, wait,
Tua.
wasn't Brian Flores part of like that
Check this.
4 and, well, I don't know. I'll look it up. I'll fact check myself. But you keep talking.
I'm just not a Brian Flores guy. Um, I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I just never thought of him as a good coach. And now, while he, was a defensive coordinator when we made it to Super Bowl 52,
Mm-hmm.
there is that, and he deserves credit for that. But I just don't see. I could see him as a great defensive coordinator, which he already is.
Mm-hmm.
But as a head coach, I just don't see it.
Okay. So Flores was the coach for the Dolphins from 2019 to 2021. And that first year he went 5-11. That was his first year. The following year he went 10-6. Didn't go to the playoffs. That was with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. And then 2021 he went 9-8, no playoffs. And that was his final year. Yeah. So it was only 3 seasons with the Dolphins. He had
That's
two
sigh.
he had 2 winning seasons, 10-6, 9-8, and then 5-11 the first year.
Well, it's not doing it for him. He's still
that-
sighing.
Yeah, he really does not. He really doesn't like it.
God, you can't impress him.
I'm thinking. I mean,
there's
3 seasons.
I've also seen the Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. I think that's how you say his name.
Yep.
I personally, this is probably gonna sound mean. I just look at him and I'm like, that's not a head coach.
All right.
I look at him and I'm like, he's not a head coach.
He's your Brian Flores.
Sure, yeah. If that's what you want, if that's
Wow.
what you want to say, yeah. But the thing is, this guy's never been a head coach before.
Yeah.
So, but I just see him and I'm like, I don't know with this team. I don't think he'd do a good job here. He wouldn't, because he has he has a good team in Tampa. So I wouldn't bring him here. A lot of people seem to want him. I don't.
I mean, they can interview him.
Personally.
I don't care.
Yeah, no,
Why not?
interview him. Interview him, though. I'm open to that. Just please don't hire him. I personally would not like that move.
Yeah, I'd rather not.
Yeah, there's better options.
I don't know a lot about him. To be honest. So
I mean, what
sure, bring him in.
Like, are there really any other options? Like, other than I'm trying to think right now. Like, Vrabel, Johnson, Flores. I know, but you gotta consider the options.
No, you do. You got to interview everyone you can. I'm open to
Cohen.
an interview, just like
Brett will slam the door on Brian Flores' face.
If the
He'll lock him out of the building.
Brian Flores.
You
You guys, if the Patriots get Brian Flores and he does a good
I'm not
job,
gonna be a
back
fan.
to
I'm not
this
gonna be a
right
fan.
now because I will be shocked if he does a good job here. Done.
So the Jets.
Bookmarked.
The Jets are about to interview a bunch of people. Their interview
They'll
list.
screw it up.
Their interview list. They've interviewed 2 people already, Mike Vrabel and Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, Riverboat Round. And then, wow, they're going for everyone. Ooh, Joe Brady's a good name too. Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. That's a good name.
Yep.
Rex Ryan, Josh McCown, the Vikings quarterback coach, which that would be an interesting jump. I would want to see McCown go somewhere and be an offensive coordinator and see what he does. And then Joe Brady, Matt Nagy.
Wow, that's a name.
Matt Nagy is getting head coaching interviews in the Big 2025. How about that?
That's incredible.
Arthur Smith. Really? Who the heck is this guy? Brian Grease? Brian Grease? Anyone?
These sound like made up names.
Yeah, these sound like you spent 10 years in Madden and these are now the coaches.
Grease.
So he's the quarterback's coach for the San Francisco 49ers. Okay.
All right, that's an interesting jump.
Aaron Glenn. Okay, that's a good one. Vance Joseph. He did a good job with the Broncos defense. And Bobby Slowick, the Texans offensive coordinator. That's the list of the people the Jets are interviewing. And also their interim head coach right now, Jeff Ulbrich.
I mean, we'll probably bring in a bunch of random coordinators to interview, but
Yeah.
we got the leader. At least we know Vrabel's.
I like some of the
Leading
names.
candidate.
I like some of the names on this list. Like Joe Brady, that's a good name. Again, I would want to see Josh McCown as a coordinator and see what he does, because I think he would be a decent coordinator. Aaron Glenn, that's a good name. The way that he called his defense last night versus the Vikings. Did you watch the game?
Yeah,
Didn't get a chance to.
some of it.
There was barely any room to throw the ball. Like,
Yeah.
it was perfect how covered all the receivers were. There was
I mean, if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm a little scared going into the playoffs. Sam Darnold looking like that
Yeah.
last night.
well,
a little
Even
terrified.
then, they're probably going to get if they match up the way they've matched up all season, they're going to face each other in the NFC Championship again. Now I should say both of them make it, of course. But after watching watching the highlights this morning, last night,
After watching
you
2
gotta
minutes
be.
of it.
I watched the whole minute and 30 before this. Just kidding. But
Wow.
you know, with a score like that, you got to be nervous. If you're going to face off in the NFC Championship and that game's going to be in Detroit again, if they were to match up, I'd be nervous if I was a Vikings fan.
So we covered a lot. We've been going for an hour and 26 minutes. I'm good to call it there. We covered a lot, and
You did.
kind of realizing that this was a very depressing first podcast, but it's fine.
Patriots
I just wanna
postmortem.
talk about
Yeah, we
better
had to do it. We had to do it.
Yeah. So this was, if people are for some reason still watching this is, if you can't tell, a recorded one. We'll try and do Wednesday at like noon, like 1-ish. We'll probably have a time sense in stone then, but hopefully that will be a live one. So then now instead I might have to do a little bit of editing now, because we definitely went off topic a bunch.
That might add depth though.
Maybe.
Might have to edit this out too.
We'll see.
But yeah,
all right.
we'll do a live one Wednesday at like noon, 1-ish, and then we'll go from there. We'll come up with there'll probably be more to talk about up until Wednesday. More stuff might happen tomorrow up until that point as well. So we'll come up with stuff to talk about. But that's gonna do it for the first episode of the DuckBoats podcast.
There it is.
Legacy.
Again, very depressing episode, but hopefully Wednesday we'll probably talk about other things. Like, we'll probably cover the Patriots first again, with assuming there might be like more, like the Patriots might be interviewing more people and stuff like that. So if there's stuff like that, we'll cover that. But then we'll probably go into like some Celtics, because Celtics season's going on. We might cover Bruins for a quick minute maybe, and then move on to something else. But if people for some reason watch this whole thing, thank you so much. And we'll be live on Wednesday at like 1 p.m. So we'll see you guys then.